Hello. How are you doing? How are you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever time you're watching this video. Welcome and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jemienaftaly. I am a pediatrician by profession, and in this channel, it's only the place that I talk about everything you need to know about the children illnesses, those illnesses that affect children while growing up. I do talk in a language that every person is able to understand, especially the mothers. Remember, they're the key caregivers of these babies. So, welcome into today's episode. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to be part of this wonderful family. And if you're that returning subscriber, thank you so much. You are a favorite person. You don't even know it yet. Thank you for always coming back to watch my content. So here we want the end result is to have healthy babies and also to improve their qualities of life. So welcome into today's episode, and the topic of today is how to calculate the IV fluids in children, those newborns, those babies that are sick, what we feed them on, and how we calculate these IV fluids. The IVF in children, the newborns, the neonates. Remember, we said the neonate is that baby who is 28 days and below. So these are the babies that have just been born. So how do we go about a baby who is very sick? This baby cannot breastfeed because they are very sick. So how do we go about this? Now, these are the babies that we give these IV fluids that we are talking about. Now, for instance, a baby has been born and they are 3 kgs, for example. Then this baby has got either conversions. When we say if the baby is sick, if the baby has got one, maybe they have conversions. Remember the tremors? Yes, the fits. If they have these conversions, these babies with respiratory distress, and this is marked by a lower chest wall in drawing. Remember, we said when we were doing pneumonia, we explained what we mean by lower chest wall in drawing. If the ribs have gone down and you can easily count the ribs, you can tell that this baby is straining to breathe. So these babies have got respiratory distress. This is how we call it when this baby has got difficulties in breathing. They also have lower chest wall in drawing. So this is a very sick baby also. If this baby is unconscious, again, we cannot go on and start breastfeeding. In as much as, remember, when you were doing breastfeeding, remember, if you haven't watched these videos on breastfeeding and everything we are talking about, go back to my videos and you are going to see all those videos about breastfeeding well explained. So remember, we said that babies should be breastfed immediately. Breastfeeding should be initiated immediately. If it's a normal delivery, we said within 30 minutes, this baby should be put to the breast to start breastfeeding. If it's a CS, this baby should be put within 2 hours after doing the CS at least. So now if these babies are so sick, remember we need to feed these babies. When we were doing some, we saw that what brings these babies down is something we call hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is low blood sugars. If they have low blood sugars, this baby we can easily lose these babies. So we want to feed them, and now we want to see, now because we said we must initiate breastfeeding immediately and these babies are sick, how do we go about it? Now here is where now we introduce the IVFs, the intravenous fluids. These are the fluids that are going to help these babies that cannot breastfeed immediately after birth. So what we do, we normally use the 10% dextrose. We call it D10, and this I have mentioned it severally because we have got so many dextroses. We have 5% dextrose, we have 50% dextrose, but we are saying for the newborns, for the babies, we want to use the D10, the 10% dextrose. So how do we go about this? Now, we normally say that if a baby is 1.5 kgs or above 1.5 kgs, we want to start giving, we calculate using, we have the feeds, we start with the 60 mils per kg per day. This is the full amount that this baby should get in that first day of life. If they have been born today and yet they have this these either of these conversions, the respiratory distress we are talking about, generally they are sick. We want to start on the 60 mils per kg per day. So we calculate by per kg per day. For example, I said we want to use if a baby is 3 kgs at birth. So we are going to calculate 60 times 3, which is 180 mils, 180 mils in 24 hours. So how do we go about knowing how much to give? So this amount, you're going to divide it by 3 to see the by 8 to see the 3 hourly feed. Before we reach there, now day 1, if this baby cannot breastfeed, we said we are using the D10. How much? We are using the 60. So 60 times 3 in 24 hours. So this baby is going to be put on IVF, the IV fluids, the 180 mils in 24 hours. So this is purely D10. We are going to do IV fluids alone for the day 1. Now, if they go to day 2 now, you want to increase this amount by 20. So day 2, you're going to calculate using 80. Remember, day 1 was 60. So day 2, you use 80. Day 3, you use 100. Day 4, 120. So you're going adding 20 mils every day. So now, after day 1, this baby is okay. Now, they can now, the respiratory distress has resolved. The baby is not the baby is not having convulsions. So what we do now, we want to introduce now the feeds. We want to start feeding this baby. And the only thing we want to introduce after the IVF, now they are stable day 2, is something we call the EBM, the expressed breast milk. This is the only thing we are going to use. Remember, we are not using anything else. We are not going to use anything else. So normally what we do, you want to start now, introduce the EBM, the expressed breast milk. This is the milk that you tell the mother to express. You tell them to express. At least they start expressing 7.5 mils or even 5 mils in every 3 hours. So in 3 hours, they are going to get in 3 hours times 8, they are going to get 40 mils that day. So what we are saying is, day 1, the baby is purely on D10, the IV fluids. Day 2, if they can be able, they are not sick, they can be able now to feed. Again, they are not able to breastfeed by themselves. So you want to put, how do you feed this express breast milk, the EBM? You want to put an NG tube. This is a nasogastric tube. I know I have mentioned it several times here. So this is a tube that goes to the nose, through the throat and to the stomach. This is where we want to feed, and we show the mothers how to go about it. So they normally express the milk. They measure it using the syringe. Now there's somewhere that they open at the end of the NG tube and they put this milk. So this is how they feed, and if the tube is in situ, if it is in the right place in the stomach where it should be, we do not have any problems. It is very, very convenient. So this is the day 2. So the day 2, now we use 80. So what we do, remember we said we are giving an example of a baby who is 3 kgs. So 80 times 3, remember day 1 was 60 times 3. So day 2, you want to do 80 mils per kg per day. So you're going to do 80 times 3. 80 times 3, now this one gives us 240 mils. Now this is the whole amount, combination of the IV fluids plus now the feed, everything is going to be 240. 80 times 3, this is 240. So day 2, this baby can be able to feed 5 meals. Maybe they did 5 meals 3 hourly. So that is 5 times 8. They are going to get 40 mils of EBM. So we are going to subtract it from the IVFs. So we are going adding more. So every day you want to add 5 mils until we do away now with the IV fluids and the baby remains with the EBM. And we know our baby is now improving. So I hope this is very, very clear. So what we are saying is, day 3, again, you go, still our baby is 3 kgs. Normally we use the birth weight. So day 3, remember we are going to use 100 mils per kg. So 100 times 3, this is 300, and this is the full amount of feed. So 300, remember, if they are day 3 now, maybe the EBM we are saying the EBM, the expressed breast milk, we want to add it every day with 5 mils. So if we are at 20 mils, so 20 mils at 3 hourly, that is 20 times 8. So this baby is getting 160 mils of EBM. So you subtract from the 300 so that you are left, you find that until we get that we are giving more EBM more than the IV fluids until we do away with IV fluids. Now, this is a case whereby the baby was sick day 1 and we did a purely on IVF, which is the D10. So day 2, the baby is stable. So here we introduce the EBM via NG tube, the nasogastric tube. Now, there's another scenario whereby now this baby is sick day 1. We are saying they cannot breastfeed. So again, we start with D10. We start with D10, and this is for the babies 1.5 kgs and above. If the baby is below 1.5 kgs, we want to start with 80 mils. We want to start with more amount of IV fluids. So a baby who is below 1.5 kgs, now this baby we are starting with 80. Day 2 is 100, but for the baby who is above 1.5 kgs, we are saying we start with 60 mils per kg per day. I hope this is clear. Again, for the babies below 1.5 kgs, we go adding 20 mils every day. Yes, we go adding 20 mils every day. So scenario 2, we are saying this baby was sick on day 1. So we started on IV fluids. We gave the 10% dextrose. So day 2, the baby is not again so well. So we want to continue with the IV fluids without the EBM, without the express breast milk, because our baby is still sick. They have not come through, so we cannot feed. So how do we go about day 2 of IV fluids? We do something very important. Here we add things we call sodium chloride. We also do potassium chloride. So potassium chloride, we want to do 1 to 2 millimoles per kg. So you calculate if our baby is 3 kgs. So they are going to get potassium chloride. They're going to get potassium chloride. They're going to get 3 millimoles, 3 mils per kg. Yes, 3 mils, because it is 1 times 3, 3 mils. Now, we also want to add something we call sodium chloride again. The sodium chloride is the same as a normal saline. So here we do with the normal saline, you want to give 19 mils per kg. So you are going to take the 19 mils times the kg of the baby, which in this scenario, we are using a baby of 3 kgs. So 19 times 3, that amount you are going to add to that 3 kgs of potassium chloride, 1 times the kg, which is 3. Now you subtract now from the D10. So the amount that this baby was getting, for example, if it was day 2 and our baby is 3 kgs, day 2, remember we started day 1 with 60. So day 2 is 60 mils. So what we do is 80 mils, sorry. So 80 times 3, we say it is 240. That is the whole amount. Now you're going to subtract now the sodium chloride, which is 3. Remember, yes, 1 times 3. We're also going to subtract the sodium chloride, which is 19 mils per kg. So you subtract those two. So this now again you subtract this from the amount, which is 240, and the remainder is going to again be D10. The D10 now you see it has reduced because we have added these salts that we are saying are sodium chloride and potassium chloride. Hope this is very, very clear. I just want you to have the knowledge of what really happens to babies that are sick. And this is the babies that you want to take to the newborn units. Yes, the nurseries, because we want to manage them there. They are very, very delicate. So we want to manage them in the newborn unit. This is why you do these IV fluids. I know it may seem like jargons or something, but at least get to know something that we start day 1, we start with purely D10, which is 10% dextrose. Then day 2, we want to add 20 mils every day until we get the maximum amount of IV fluids you can give is 150 mils per kg per day. Then the total amount of feed, the maximum is usually 180. So you want to go adding. And you find that most babies, we don't reach day 5 or day 7, but in case you have to follow that, add 20 mils every day. So you find that at day 3, this baby has come through. There's no respiratory distress, there's no convulsions. This baby is able now to breastfeed. So depending on how this baby responds, so we may find ourselves now removing the NG tube and allowing this baby to feed. Or what we tell the mothers is to retain the NG tube. Yeah, every day, remember, we are adding every day. So if we are at, for example, EBM of 40 mils per kg, so what we do is we tell the mom to express. You add this, you put this on the NG tube. Then, because we cannot be sure how much this baby is breastfeeding, now we start placing the baby on the breast to breastfeed on their own, slowly until again we remove the NG tube and the baby is stable to breastfeed by themselves. And when doing this, we want to monitor a lot of things. There are things that we call intolerances. If the baby can tolerate this milk, this EBM that we are putting in the NG tube. And what are these signs of intolerance is if the baby's stomach has started distending, yes. If the baby starts to vomit, we tell the mothers to reduce the amount of the EBM. If you are at 40 and the baby starts to vomit, now we want to investigate whatever is causing, and we are able to see that this baby cannot tolerate this milk. So we reduce it. You might find ourselves reducing it to 20. Others, you may see, you may find the baby was doing well, then on the way the baby started getting other conversions, or the baby starts to get respiratory distress and they were okay. They were on EBM and also the IV fluids. So what we do, we completely sometimes stop the EBM, the express breast milk, because the baby is again sick. We go back to the IV fluids alone, because the IV fluids are the only ones that can stimulate the gut. Yes, doing what the breast milk would have done the day one, and we cannot fast these babies. That's why we want to start them on IV fluids before they are stable enough to do now the EBM. From EBM, we stop even expressing, and the babies can start feeding by themselves. Yes, this is it. This is the how we calculate the EBM. This is how we calculate the IV fluids. It is the total amount of feeds plus the IV fluids, and we are saying we want to go reducing the amount of IV fluids until we remain now with the EBM. And the only way to do with the EBM, we are saying, is through now the NG tube on day 2. From the NG tube, we start feeding. We see that the baby is stable. We remove, you see, it's about how the baby is responding. We can remove the NG tube and we start feeding via cup. Yes, from via cup we go to start now breastfeeding the babies. This is how, and this is what mothers come to the nursery to do. Remember, they come to the NBU every 3 hours. Every 3 hours they have to go and feed these babies, because we are saying feeding is 3 hourly. Every 3 hours the baby should feed again. So this is it. This is what happens in the newborn unit. You hear people say, my baby is in nursery, because all these things cannot be done in the general ward. This is where these babies are placed to do this. We normally put an IV line, the intravenous line. So this IV line is where we put now these IV fluids. We use a giving set. We do these IV fluids, the D10, yes, and maybe this baby again may be having IV antibiotics. Again, the same line. We want to push the IV antibiotics. This is how we manage, this is how we calculate the IV fluids, and we have said which babies we do these calculations. The babies that are very sick, they cannot start breastfeeding immediately. So I thought it was good for you to know, at least you have the knowledge. If you have any questions, go to my email. Remember, my email is provided in the end of every video. Go to my email, ask anything you feel you need clarifications. Also comment in my comment section. I will appreciate. So thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed again, remember to subscribe. Put on your notifications to know every time I'm posting a new video here. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye bye.